The House will be in order. There are members that will want to hear this presentation. Proceed, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, members of the House. We're glad to have in front of you finally a conference committee report on House Bill 105, which is the amended 13 budget. Before I get into the comments, I just want to kind of lay things out just a little bit for you. I'm going to go through the comments tonight and not go through the tracking document. However, if you have questions, I'll be glad to answer those about the tracking document, and just all this in being mindful of the time that everything is taking today. I do want to thank our staff. Martha and Christine are here from the budget office, and y'all, the hours, every time I go through this exercise, the hours that these two and our whole staff over there put in is just incredible. And just please be sure to shake their hand or hug their neck and tell them thank you for the time they stay away from their families. I'm glad to have them. They make me look smart, and that takes a lot. But I want to thank our colleagues across the hall, Senator Hill and his staff over there, and for their help in putting all this together, because it was a little more difficult than the previous two amended budgets I've had the opportunity to do, just because that we feel like that, it feels like things are looking a little better, but yet at the same time, revenues are not where they need to be to take care of the things we need to do. So getting into the comments, and if you'll just keep up with me, I'll roll through those and I'll tell you basically what the changes are in the document from the House position. As you'll remember, the original amended fiscal year 2013 budget was based on a revenue estimate about 3.9% growth over fiscal year 12, lower than the 5.2% proposed during the session last year. However, at the end of 7 months, net tax collections are up almost $564 million compared to the same point last year. So we are making that gradual climb. To that end, the governor has recognized in this document an additional $9.8 million in increased revenues since the time the bill left this House. This adjustment is reflected on the front page of your tracking document as a part of the new revenue estimate. The revised revenue estimate now adjusts state funds, including lottery, still down by about $218 million from what our original estimate was at the end of last year, and tempers the loss of some of those funds with adjusted payments to the Treasury from some of our authorities of about $22 million, one-time recognition of the National Mortgage Settlement Funds of $99.4 million, and the mid-year adjustment for education of $172.7 million. All of the net numbers winds up being still a reduction of about $16.5 million from the beginning of the fiscal year. While I will simply focus on a few of the changes from the House position, I'd like to remind you of all that we agreed to of the governor's adds, and those look at or comprise $245 million in growth for Medicaid, $43 million in increased motor fuel funds, and the use of $27 million from the motor fuel fund reserves for the removal of the Georgia 400 toll plaza. About $710,000 for the T1 lines of driver services to help expedite service there, and about $500,000 for the Peace Officers Indemnification Fund. I still can't say that word well, due to a large number of claims there. I'd also like to point out several of the House positions that have remained intact through the process, and highlights of these actions include several. That was the complete elimination of the cuts to the Georgia Youth Science Technology Centers and to the Superintendent's Leadership Program. The restoration of $659,320 for the residency development programs for Gwinnett Medical Center and the Southwest Georgia Consortium. An add back of about $488,000 for the Mercer and Morehouse operating grants to reduce the proposed reductions from a 3% to 1.5%. And we'll get back to that in just a second. We also did a full restoration in the original document of $511,000 plus for the hypertension outreach services, and about $3.4 million to meet the existing obligations for current charter system grants. Differences that showed up between the House and Senate versions that we as the House Conference Committee have accepted are reductions to the councils of the judicial branch of about $131,000, $26,313 added back for the restoration of the sparsity grants to K-12 school systems, and the restoration of $40,000 contract for the Association of Adapted Sports. We also included $2.2 million to eradicate the mid-year reduction to Georgia Gwinnett College in the Senate version. The second half of funding needing to add to the House's increase, which fully restores the graduate medical education residency slots at Mercer and Morehouse Schools of Medicine and the GME slots as well. And about $500,000 in bonds that the governor recommended bringing out of the budget, we've agreed to keep in for the Ray Charles Fine Arts Center at Albany State. The major items adjusted from the House version are as follows. We added $10.4 million for the eligible private hospitals to participate, my tongue's tired, in the disproportionate share hospitals or DISH program in the Indigent Care Trust Fund for a total of $17.2 million. The most up-to-date projection increased the need to a little over $19 million, and the conferees were able to maintain or attain all of the full funding. So ultimately, these funds will be matched with federal dollars and infuse about $50 million back into hospitals for healthcare services. We'd also proposed to infuse $1 million into the Roosevelt Warm Springs Institute for Rehabilitation. As one of our newest agencies established by the General Assembly last year, there have been additional needs identified as we redefine that facility and that agency's roles. Conferees have agreed to fund the hospital portion of the facility with an additional $5 million in operating funds for the year to finish them out, which allows for voc rehab dollars that are there to be segregated and maximized for a 4-to-1 match with available federal funds. You previously voted to add back over $500,000, about $548,000 to school nutrition. The revised revenue estimate allowed the conferees to completely eliminate the proposed 7.1% reduction to a 0 reduction there. Also in K-12 education, charter system grants were increased by about $4.4 million to fund the 2 newly eligible systems, both Fulton and Madison counties. And then the engineering scholarship figures and student finance have been trued up with an add of about $131,750 to meet that demand as well. I want to thank our subcommittee chairs once again for the work that they and their subcommittees did over the interim and while the budget was on that side and coming back, and the feedback that they've given us to help us kind of work through some of these things. And you know, it gives me a lot of pleasure that we're able to guard and stronghold a lot of the House priorities throughout this document. The Senate took up the bill about 5:20 this afternoon and passed it out unanimously. And we would like to do the same thing on this side if at all possible. And Mr. Speaker, at this time, if there are any questions, I'll be glad to answer a few.
I don't see any questions.
Well, if that's the case, Mr. Speaker.
What an explanation.
Well, you know, we just try to do our best. That being the case, I'd appreciate your yes vote, and I will yield the well.
On the adoption of the Conference Committee report on House Bill 105, all those in favor of the adoption of the Conference Committee report will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machine. March. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine on the adoption of the Committee of Conference report on House Bill 105. The ayes are 173, the nays are 0. This House has unanimously adopted the conference committee report on the amended FY13 budget.